Ramana Maharshi's wisdom shines in talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi. This Ramana clip is from a longer video by me, Richard Clarke, as I comment. YouTube subtitles, their closed captions, are good. Turn them on and read along.
This talk starts with a question that comes again and again. Kindly instruct me as to how the mind may be controlled. To which Ramana responds, there are two methods. One is to see what the mind is, then it subsides. The other is to fix your attention on something, then the mind remains quiet. What Ramana did not say here, but has said at other times, is that one is mental quiet that is temporary, and the other can be permanent. Concentration quiets the mind as long as concentration is continued. But the concentration cannot be kept up all the time. Even if you can sustain it during the waking state, it will be broken during deep sleep and dream. The mind, though, can be made quiet altogether when you realize the mind was never real, never had any innate existence of its own to begin with. It is just the reality and consciousness of the self superimposed onto the imagined individual person. The seeming reality of the mind is based on the actual reality that you are. It is borrowed, so to speak. The devotee continues, men of the world that we are, we have some kind of grief for another and do not know how to get over it. We pray to God and are still not satisfied. What can we do? Maharshi's answer is trust God. I think this means something like trust the universe. God, Brahman, Shiva, the universe. The name doesn't matter. Trust God. The devotee is still not satisfied with this response and keeps probing, saying, we surrender, but there is no help. And Ramana replies, yes, if you have surrendered, you must be able to abide by the will of God and not make a grievance of what may not please you. Ramana says that surrender means accepting what is given to you by God. As long as you want to get what you desire, then you haven't surrendered. The devotee continues with his complaint, saying, we cannot ignore their existence and resign ourselves to divine will, to which Ramana responds, that means you have not surrendered as professed by you. You must only trust God. Surrender means trust. Surrender means putting your individual desires down. Surrender means, as in the Christian Lord prayer, thy will be done. Thy will, not my will. This surrender is surrender of the ego, surrender of the sense of my or mine. It diminishes the ego, just like inquiry. Both can remove the ego. Then the Maharshi is asked, can one think without the mind? Is it possible to gain that consciousness which is beyond thoughts? Ramana says, yes, there is only one consciousness which subsists in the waking, dream, and sleep states. There is only one consciousness. There is only one. Can you find more than this? Are you one, or is there one to know the other? Ramana goes on to say, thoughts may be like any other activities, not disturbing the supreme consciousness. Thoughts do not touch or disturb the unmoving consciousness that we are. How could they? Thoughts are more like passing clouds. Even activities don't disturb the consciousness. Ramana then turns to a discussion of identity of the seeming I, saying, in deep sleep there is no I. The I thought arises on waking, and then the world appears. Where was this I in sleep? This I thought is not continuous. It is not there all the time. In fact, we all go through periods every day where it's gone altogether. How can what comes and goes be your identity? Do you go away when you sleep? Or is the mind just dormant? Ramana continues, was it there or was it not? It must have been there also, but not in the way you feel now. The present is only the I thought, whereas the sleeping I is the real I. It subsists all through. It is consciousness. If it is known, you will see that it is beyond thoughts. Of course, being and consciousness are there in deep sleep. The mind and ego are not with the mind dormant and sleeping. The mind is what we know erroneously as our identity. When inactive, from the mind's feeling, as it were, as is it like we weren't there? But we know we slept well. Where does this knowledge come from when the mind is dormant? Then Ramana is asked about spiritual and mundane experience, to which he says there is only one experience. You can't know the ego I without also knowing the self. The self is the base, the substratum on which everything appears. And finally, Ramana is asked how to know the real I as distinct from the false I. Ramana turns to inquiry. If the inquiry is made whether mind exists, it will be found that mind does not exist. That is control of mind. Otherwise, if the mind is taken to exist and one seeks to control it, it amounts to mind controlling the mind, like a thief turning out to be a policeman to catch the thief. You need to know what is true. You need to know yourself. When the false I is known to be false, then everything that springs from it, like the idea of a mind that knows reality, a mind that knows the totality beyond itself, beyond its objects of awareness, this mind is also false. This mind has no reality.
These videos help bring Ramana Maharshi's teachings into your direct experience. Subscribe now to help you deepen your understanding and practice to know the self. Just click the subscribe button.